So this is kind of like a Warhammer book review from a normal person. Hello, welcome to Books and Booze. This is a series where I talk about books and I have some booze. I'm Alex. This time I will be talking about Dan Abnett's Horus Rising, which is part of the Horus Hersey series, which is part of the Warhammer 40k universe. I'll also be drinking through some Guinness Stout. Usually I give a little bit more detail about what I'm drinking, but it's just the top tier beer. It's just perfect for snowy winter weather that I'm experiencing right now. And if you watch my Arm of the Sphinx video, it's the same one I have in that because I'm kind of speedrunning through these videos right now. I have a newborn daughter who's sleeping, but I want to get some stuff down. And you can also ignore everything going on around me. Going through a lot of changes, organization, and stuff like that right now. But with that, let's go ahead and get into Horus Rising. As I said, Horus Rising is a 2006 novel by Dan Abnett. It's the first novel in the very long, I think over 40 book, if I understand correctly, Horus Hersey series, which is a entire prequel to the main bulk of the Warhammer 40k universe. The story follows War Master Horus, as you can guess, and who kind of has this favor by the Emperor of Mankind, and mankind is sent out into this great crusade across the universe to unify humanity, unify them under the Imperium. But you mainly get it through this protagonist, who's a captain of the Space Marines, Gavril Loken. I hope I say all the names in this right. He's part of the Luna Wolves, which is a particular Space Marine corps. And you kind of get to witness this shift occurring between him and Horus and that conglomeration as they have growing doubts about the Emperor's intentions for this crusade. The Luna Wolves, they go through a couple different battles that you get to read over, and there's these tensions that arise between those who are kind of blindly following the Emperor's vision and those who are ultimately starting to kind of question his godlike status. Loken, who's kind of initially very loyal, pragmatic, coded to do everything for the Imperium, starts to have a lot of this political intrigue, starts to learn how things work behind the scenes as he goes into the Morning Ball, which is inner circle that Horus operates. And then he starts to see external dark forces, chaos magic, manipulating events from the shadows. And all of this leads to Horus's own authority, being challenged by internal conflicts, these alien threats, the chaos magic that I alluded to, and then all these little differences begin to creep into the ranks of his troops, and the book kind of ends suddenly, which is kind of one of the criticisms I have for it, but it ultimately works to foreshadow Horus's betrayal of the Emperor, and that's not a spoiler. The very first line is about how Horus is eventually going to kill the Emperor. So as a caveat going into this, I'm like a light Warhammer fan. I don't actually play the miniature war game. I play a lot of the video games. I'm into Darktide, Space Marine, Vermintide, Speed Freaks. I've touched them here and there. There's other ones I'm interested in playing. So this is kind of like a Warhammer book review from a normal person. I say that lovingly because Warhammer lore people are absolute freaks to me. I don't understand how they retain that much information. This is deeply webbed together. The world building is dense and insane. A lot of kind of the relations and the details and the rankings and how the army is organized kind of glossed over me going through it. But I have to say, even as someone who's a light Warhammer nerd and fan, I thought this book was overall really excellent. From someone that just likes sci-fi, likes books, is kind of into Warhammer, I enjoyed this a lot more than I expected. My expectations going into it were kind of like how you see those like Halo books or like Warcraft books you used to see at like Walmart or something. You're like, there's no way that's like good, right? This maybe makes me rethink and reassess some of those, we'll call them prejudices I had against kind of second-hand cultural products of big franchises. Ultimately, I think there's a mix of what Abnett does really well here, and I think that can kind of code for the general reader what you may or may not like about this book. There's insane action sequences filled with bloody battles and absolute testosterone to the max. And there's like more complex, reflective moments around themes of loyalty, truth, and power. If you're into either one of those things, know that the story switches back between those modes like all the time, chapter by chapter. And it can kind of do so in a stark way, so it might throw you off in your reading experience. I also think this relies on you somewhat knowing Warhammer to a degree. A lot of the world building things, general terms, what Space Marines are doing. Knowing some of the stuff beforehand helps you. It helped me just to know, just to visualize and understand some of the things going on. Just how certain items are used, what's the aesthetic of this ship, this city. That helped me a lot. And then, of course, the other big caveat I had is it just like ends. Really, really abrupt. I mean, the ending is basically tied together in like one paragraph, and there's an allusion to something that I feel like is supposed to be a big deal to me, a certain planet they're going to at the end, and I don't know what that is. So, to me, I was like, oh, that's it. It's just done. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind going into this. But like I said, there's a lot that I was really impressed by in this book and that I like. So let me get into that. First and foremost, I think the prose really actually impressed me. It's certainly shown in those action sequences, which make them a bit more fun to read if you're typically not into that. But the dialogue and the conversations around intrigue and each character's philosophy was incredibly well done. I think Abnett is just a damn good writer. I'm really impressed with how he constructed everything here. It leads to really excellent pacing and makes this very alien and inhuman world way more engaging than I think it otherwise would be. And despite, I think, having a working knowledge of the Warhammer universe helps you in getting into this book, I do think the novel does a pretty good job at introducing other components of the universe that like ones that I wasn't aware of. It's a prequel, so the more detailed tensions between factions and ideas works really well. It also helps to have these characters called remembrancers that are, they kind of help you frame it in a way that you understand. They basically operate as like historians, photographers, poets, and I mean, they're ultimately there to create propaganda, but it helps because they have this genuine curiosity about what's happening. They ask a lot of questions, and they express doubts more easily than a lot of the highly indoctrinated Marines. So I can see how they are used to ground a general reader in this world. I think a big thing that I loved about this that stood out to me with a lot of the themes that we talk about on the channel is that there was this exploration about the tension between understanding the universe in purely materialistic and spiritual terms. I didn't know that the Imperium originally kind of had its crusade to purge the universe of spiritualist superstitions, as they call it. That was like a big part of it. That's just because of how I guess I view some of the like contemporary Warhammer storylines going on. Yet when chaos appears, they have this sudden crisis of faith in that materialistic worldview, and it's really interesting to watch it unravel. How do they understand it? How do they classify it? How do they fight it? One of the most captivating moments of this is when the Marines are laying siege to this region called the Whisperhead Mountains, where these anti-imperialists are kind of holed up at, and they encounter Samus, who, from what I can tell, is sort of this demonic entity that ends up haunting some of the Marine characters. And it quickly shows sort of the pitfalls of having this purely materialistic worldview in this very strange and bizarre world. I found it probably one of the most compelling moments and one of the most compelling themes through the book. I think the other big theme is that around power, and I think that's easy to know because it's, space crusades. Clearly power is going to be a big theme, but it shows both the unifying and it shows it as both a unifying and a corrupting force, showing how it can inspire loyalty while it's also inherently also sowing seeds of division among that loyalty at the same time. So because you have this third-person limited perspective from Loken, you get to experience the weight of the power firsthand and how it operates in an individual, how it's ultimately shaping his perception, how it influences the decisions that he makes, and how it ultimately breeds the doubt that leads to this fraction in the Imperium, which I think is what ultimately Horus Rising is trying to do, is get at the fragility of power and our very feeble attempts to hold on to it. That's especially when it's built on unquestioned authority. So you have this juxtaposition where the Emperor, he's not in the book. He's kind of in this distant, almost mystical rule from afar, while Horus gets to embody this more personal, charismatic leadership among his men. And that sets the stage for that fall because of the relational power that's laid out there. And I think that's what's interesting, is that the chaos magic is ultimately still working to tempt Horus and other characters with these visions of grandeur about kind of superseding the Emperor, where it's like something about the leadership and the charismatic, like the genuine relation that then desires to be superimposed upon an entire culture and society is actually chaos. Despite the fact that to do that, it's very rigid and very hierarchical, and just tons of laws and codes enacted across the Imperium. So really, I was just surprised all around. I mean, I mainly thought this was going to be Space Marines punching in weird spiders' faces the whole time, and there is plenty of that in it, and it's a lot of fun, but it was a way more complex meditation on power and kind of exploring its ability to both inspire and band people together, but also to kind of unravel and show the sins and evil that we are so easily capable of falling into. So with that, do I give Horus Rising by Dan Abnett a toast of excellence? You can probably tell, yes, I do. I think this is really great sci-fi. It's a lot of great fun, and it has some serious food for thought. I want to continue the series, but it seems the second book, I think it's called False Gods, it's not written by Abnett. It seems like people really don't like it, that it's a letdown, yet they find it necessary to the overall narrative. So we'll see. But I highly recommend Horus Rising for viewers of my channel and the kind of stuff that we talk about here. If there's any kind of lore stuff that you want to correct me on in the comments, please, I want to know more about this world and everything. Just let me know down below. I kind of invite that. Maybe there's something else that even kind of feeds into the stuff I'm saying here. I know there's plenty of Warhammer lore freaks, as I'm calling them, that would love to just share something like that in the comments, so please do so. But yeah, absolutely. Cheers to Dan Abnett and Horus Rising. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, if you know more about the lore, more about this world, if you have recommendations on maybe some different territory to go into in the Warhammer universe that people do like, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see that. Or if you also want to add to some of the stuff I was saying here about Horus Rising, it seems more rich than what I could do in kind of this speed run of a book review. If you like this video, please give it a like so that YouTube might show it to other people that might like it. If you didn't like this video, you can also let me know that. Anything helps me out. If you like long-form book reviews with a little bit of analysis, please see what else I have on the channel. Also, if you like video essays, mainly around movies right now, but I do a lot of that on the channel as well. So please consider subscribing if you really like what I'm doing here so that you don't miss a lot of the new stuff I'm about to start putting out. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in our next exploration.